Well, hey, good morning to anyone else that's joining us
Hey, Anne
during.
Marie and Ben Jetty are in chat.
Yeah, yeah. Anne Marie, Bengenium. Okay. Can you hear me and Dag okay? Just want to make sure that we're off to the races. Um, so, Dag, you want to do a little intro for us? I'm still working on waking up, which I'm most of the way there.
The intro is really easy. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Be On Trek Podcast. I'm Dag. In the room with me, we've got Jay. We are looking for some of your extra warm thoughts as two of our co hosts are out ill right now. Otherwise, it'd be four of us. Um,
Are we counting just the one hand or both together?
it's the mirror universe hand. There's the alternate universe us's who are podcasting for virtual Trek Con and Terran Empire. You know how it works, right?
Yeah.
But today we're going to talk about Picard season 3, aka TNG semi season 8.
I think we could call it TNG Season 8. Why not?
We might be eating our words though, because like I've talked about this with some friends, and they've been like, "Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves." Picard season 1 and 2 have let down some people, but this last episode came out Thursday. It's like 3 days ago,
Uh huh.
and there was a lot of stuff that I was very impressed by.
Me too.
Cool.
Well, and so this is what I will say for anyone that may have
Hold
been.
up. Hold up. We forgot to do one thing.
What did we
If you
forget to
haven't seen
do?
this episode, we're gonna spoil the hell out of it. So, spoiler alert.
I always kind of take it for granted that if you're watching a Star Trek podcast, especially if it's going to be reviewing an episode of Star Trek, that there's going to be spoilers. But that's just me. I I could be crazy, but I think you're right because there's still forums that I will be on online, and someone will talk about something that happened in an episode of a show that was off 20 plus years ago and be talking about spoilers. Okay, dude, here's what I have to say about that. If you haven't found a way to get around to watching said episode or show after it's been off the air that amount of time and you're in a forum talking about that, you're going to have to accept there's some risk of spoiler. I mean, I don't know.
I I think there's a middle ground to balance out. And chat, help me out. I did boost my gain, by the way. I saw your comment, Benjenium. I hope this is louder.
Yes.
Um, but there's like it's like a two-way street. On one hand, we do want to be considerate of people who might be spoiled of it, because if there are people who are just discovering, especially Star Trek for the first time, I don't want to give them a bad like experience of like the end of TNG or the end of DS9 by then just rampantly talking about it. I don't want to be that person.
Uh,
But I also think like fan first kind of thinking, which is like, oh, you're new to this. I want you to love it as much as I do. So I'm gonna wait till you get there so we can have that conversation. But yes, if you're on the internet and you are looking for information about episodes that maybe you have seen, keep in mind the fandom is also heavily cross-indexed. It's going to be like, yeah, that episode was just like these 47 others, and then go into great detail about how they all ended, and all the
yeah.
little nitpicks and everything. I mean, for even just for this episode right now, I've got a note card with tiny freaking writing about all of the references. There's got to be at least 40.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I saw several, but I don't think I counted that many.
Oh,
Man, you're
I,
good.
so like when Cal and I watch TV, usually if it's a show I want to see, Cal's heckling, and if it's a show Cal wants to see, I'm heckling.
So
We
there's a
did this a
heckler.
lot. Yeah, we did this a lot with Rings of Power. It's Lord of the Rings, Cal's thing.
Isn't that the new
I
show?
was Yeah, it's on Prime or
Okay.
wherever you might get that.
Yeah.
But like I was the one who was very much like, who is this guy? What does he think he's doing? That's not how you do that. But like we'll watch Terminator and Cal will be like, shoot up a black man's house, this is not okay. And I'm like, whoa, you just reframed the whole thing for Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, so I was actually heckling this episode of Picard. I was like, oh that, oh that, oh that, oh crap.
Well, I can't wait to hear the ones that you saw that I missed. But let's just say before we dive right into it, I was really excited going in to this season because I think that for the 90s kid and all of us being excuse me, being able to see what's essentially, I'd like to call it another season of TNG. I was really excited to hear about this, to see that we were getting back Gates McFadden, Michael Dorn, LeVar Burton, Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, Brent Spiner, of course, and trying to figure out, okay, well, Data's dead again. How the hell is he going to figure in? Of course, you've got to have him. Well, we'll talk about him more when he finally shows up. Before I go into that tangent, but I
Yeah.
was super excited about this, and the way it opened, getting the that's one of the things we haven't seen, getting the title, the episode name,
Yeah.
because that's kind of a thing now with this new Trek. We don't get the episode title, which I don't understand why. I'm glad we're getting that. I never quite.
So I think a lot of it has to do with production value, and I don't know this. And if anybody in chat actually knows the answer to this, that'd be great. Help back us up or not. But a whole lot of what I've seen in New Trek is expanding as much as they can story value and removing any kind of other extraneous costs. So that's why transporters work like that now. You don't have a 10-second beam out, beam back
Mm-hmm.
montage anymore.
Right,
You
just
just
boom, you go there.
double tap and boom, you're there. Our the intros are shorter. You don't get the full on fanfare. You don't get that. Yeah, Discovery might be the closest that you get to it, and Lower
Yes.
Decks does it too. And I think they realized they kind of needed that for Star Trek, and so but Picard just had the first few bars of Jerry Goldsmith's beautiful First Contact theme, and then the end of Jeff Russo's Picard theme, and then you get the well, at least for this episode, you get that Wrath of Khan in the 25th century
That was pretty
title
awesome.
bar, and then
That was damn awesome.
into a star theme with the title, and that's cool. But I think the title, that's an essential for Star Trek, and that's something that the people who are making current Trek um, realized they had to give us back. Like we need the title cards. It's part of what we watch. It's part of how much fun
Yeah,
Star
you,
Trek
you
is.
can't take that away from us.
Plus, today's episode's name was a double entendre, The Next Generation.
Yeah.
And we'll get there at the end of that particular episode. I'm assuming everybody in chat has seen the episode, so we can just go right on into
Let's
the
make that
craziness.
assumption. Is that a safe assumption to make? If you're in
Uh,
the chat, have you seen the episode that we're about to review?
well, the other side is it's a live stream. We only have an hour. We don't have time to go into like a full on, this is what happened in the episode.
Yeah, exactly.
But in chat, if there's anything that you want to point out that you think we've missed by the end of this, or if there is any like what detail, like that didn't happen in the episode, yeah, call that out too.
We are
But
okay with being wrong. If Dag is wrong, call it out. If I'm
yeah,
wrong, please be
get
very
me.
subtle about it.
Get me.
And
My ego tends to start really high in the morning and then crash. So the sooner that happens, the better I'll be. But we open on the Helios. It's Crusher's ship, and there's somebody else in there with her that she locks out. And one of the very first things that I noticed is like in this whole like scrolling by of the opening scene there, she's got orchids. And the orchids only make sense on a second watch because orchids have a very important legacy with the history of genetics in science.
Uh-huh.
Because you can like clone orchids and see how
Yes.
their color patterns appear, and that will help you figure out the genetics of
Aren't they
orchids.
easily clonable? Isn't that the
Yeah,
thing with orchids? Okay.
yeah. There's special words that I don't remember, but we see the orchids, and we know there was an orchid. I'm pretty sure it was an orchid in Cause and Effect when Crusher spills her water all the time. I think she was clipping an orchid in that scene.
I want to say you're
Um,
right. At least I don't
and
remember it enough to be able to tell you if you were wrong or not, but I think you're probably
mhm.
right.
And then we see masks of the cry now smile later masks, which are very
Yeah.
dramatic masks, theatrical. Crusher was a director of plays.
Hmm.
We see Jack Crusher's belongings, some kind of suitcase of Jack Crusher's. And instantly, if you're hip to all of this, you're going, did she clone Jack?
Oh,
What? But I think one of the cool things that I noticed was that the L cars readouts on the Helios were the old like pink, purple, and yellow of the 2360s L cars from TNG.
when the ghost isn't doing it for you, the green ghost, go ahead, just clone
Oh my
your.
God, Jay.
Yes. Hey, it's early morning.
That would have
I'm
been the best thing
slappy.
to see on the Helios as a candle.
Oh my. Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. I regret opening my own mouth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, so the Ilios is being boarded, unknown people. Crusher locks the kid out, and grabs a phaser rifle. For some reason, it's a pump action phaser rifle. It makes me wonder if the pump action is like increased charge. Like this is how we decide it's going to be
Hey,
lethal versus just stun. Because the two things she shot disappeared into a volley of sparks. Um, but a pump action energy weapon that just seemed a little weird to me. Also, the dumbest thing about that rifle was, you're in the middle of a firefight and it just calls out to the bad guys, "Hey, we're out of power over here. Go ahead and shoot. It's cool."
your clip is empty. Get her!
I mean, I know when I'm out, it's like click, 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 and that always happens in like the detective shows, and everyone's like, "Haha, you're out."
I don't need a freaking announcement.
But yeah, just broadcast it on the PA. If it's connected to Bluetooth, is it playing music too? Hey, everybody, Dr. Crusher is out of weapons. Here's her location.
Now's your chance. I was
Oh,
actually cool
great.
with the pump action. I really think that between that, the pump action, and the machine gun like weapons that
Oh,
the other dudes had,
those are wild.
those were freaking crazy. Now I'm okay with this because I like taking it down a step, bringing it back to some visceral realism that we're used to. Because think of it as a futuristic pump action shotgun. She had a shotgun. Let's just, it was a pump action rifle. They had machine guns. I really think that that's a good way of taking, because when we're dealing with shows that are in the future like this, of course, we're using our imagination to depict what would things be like in the future. And I like that they took this and brought it kind of down a step where it's something that feels familiar and sounds familiar. The whole pump action shotgun thing, the machine gun kind of thing, might just be me, but I like little things like that. So I was good
You
with it.
know, in retrospect, it does sort of give that like Western frontier vibe where you've got like the
Ooh,
retired doctor with their shotgun trying to defeat, some young up and comers who have more advanced tech. But the doctor's got the experience and wins out in the end. And of course,
yeah,
that feint that she pulls where she shoots that conduit to like get a little bit of a distraction before she can zero in on him. That was pretty.
yeah.
Um, Faith Howell in chat says, "Cloning your dead husband and living alone on a ship in the edge of the world is a no-no."
Right, who would
No, no.
choose such a life?
Um, I did like that Crusher's jacket had like the Wrath of Khan collar kind of
Yes.
going, like the away mission jackets. Those were
Yeah.
really cool.
That was nice. I did like that. I'm glad that came back.
So she gets shot. She leaves this message for Picard, and then we cut over to Picard, and we get to see some cool stuff in his house. The Enterprise painting that had hung up on the Enterprise D. A lot of relics here from the Enterprise D. Obviously, they went back to the saucer wreck.
They had to
Because
recover well, I would imagine they had to recover as much, well, everything. They
yeah,
had to get everything off there because there was
Viridian 4 was populated, and eventually they would go over and find it.
yeah. What the fuck is
That's
this? This
true.
there's a ship here. I'm sure they probably had the cleanup crew. There
Boy,
had to be a Starfleet cleanup crew that had to do something about the
oh yeah,
swath of
that's Third
destruction.
Contact. We'll get that in
Cleaners.
Lower Deck season 4. Talk about how Mariner had to raise the Hulk of the Enterprise D off Iridium 3. But the Kurlan Naskos was on Picard's desk. The antique statue that was given to him by his mentor in the chase.
Professor Galen.
Yeah, the priceless Kurlan Naskos that in generations gets picked up and tossed over his side to get the photo album. Um, any thoughts about what Frontier Day? I guess is the day the Enterprise, the Archer's Enterprise left to explore.
Let's see. So Frontier Day they're celebrating the 250th anniversary, right, of Frontier Day.
And that takes us back to 2151, which was the first adventure of the NX Enterprise under Archer.
I'm going to say that it had to be it because I was just about to ask what year is this season of Picard take
Yeah.
place in, and we are in 24.
01.
We are in 2401.
2401.
Okay.
Memory Alpha says 2411 because the person who wrote the article thinks that was 2161, which would have been the founding of the Federation. But somebody on the show, I can't remember if it was a producer or a director or something, said that they specifically aligned the year in Picard season 3 to coincide 250 years after Archer left on their first voyage in 2151.
That's where my money is that was when Archer's ship departed, and that's what we're celebrating.
So do you think we'll get like a President Archer hologram speech on Frontier Day at the end of the season?
I think
Is it going to end with another space, the final frontier?
if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say that yes, if you're making it such a point that the subplot of this season is about NX-01 departing on its maiden voyage, that we get something from Archer, some kind of, well, does it matter if we get some kind of scene or speech or whatever from him? I don't know. But then again, you've got to wonder why go through such lengths to line up this season and have that be kind of one of the liftoff points, and not take advantage of the possibility of doing that, of incorporating something more from Enterprise. Let's give Enterprise a little bit of closure. TNG's getting some closure. How about we give a little bit to the Enterprise? Exactly, because they had
We could get like a 400-year-old Dr. Phlox.
Oh God, yeah, really.
Just as irascible as ever. Don't you know? Denobulans live for 1,000 years. What? What? Where have you been all this time? Why aren't you like Chief Operations Starfleet Medical forever?
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Mona Mijas said that would be awesome to have a President Archer speech. Yeah, it would. That would be nice.
Oh. So they end up at a bar, and Riker's drinking, and apparently it's 10 forward because he mentions how Guinan has, little statuettes for Frontier Day. Those statuettes are little Eagle Moss starship models that were made by Eagle Moss. I was like, oh man, they're still
Cool.
around. Gosh, we just can't get rid of anything. And
the Third World War did not wipe out everything we hold dear.
Here's something I'm hoping maybe some of the people in chat picked up. But when Riker and Picard leave, there's a guy like looks at them and drops a little ship model in a glass. That ship model is a micro machine of an Enterprise D. It might be bronze. They might have done something to it, but it's a micro machine, 100%.
I had the same damn thing.
So hard. I was like, where is the micro machine man still around? Is he going to be like, come on, everybody, get your Starship Enterprise model right here?
But why drop it in the drink? Like, I know it was for dramatic effect, but who goes around dropping toys in their drinks?
Because the Enterprise D is going down.
Oh.
And maybe, like, metaphorically, the Enterprise D crew.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The
micro machine.
The bartender said no one was buying the fat ones. That's why there were so many of.
That's the Enterprise D to you, young lady. Okay, so we are getting a lot of that Star Trek, like Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, even a little bit of like Voyage Home. In any show, it's inevitable with a legacy like this that the characters age, and that aging process becomes sort of part of an arc of the show.
Right.
Spock even calls it out in Star Trek VI. Have you and I become so old that we have outlived our usefulness? In that growing together and becoming comfortable in that is part of the story. And so I see some of that happening here.
I agree.
With Riker and Picard.
Riker, they feel like they're getting another send-off. They're on the old side of things.
Yeah. This is the scene also where a lot of people start thinking Riker isn't who he claims to be. There's a lot of postulation out in the theory fandom, theoryverse. It's kind of theoryverse that Riker's not who he is, and that this season will be about the return of the Bluegills from Conspiracy.
What?
And they're calling out a lot of the stuff that Riker didn't remember, but it's in this scene that I'm sort of convinced that Riker's who he says he is. Because a lot of the evidence is like, well, Riker didn't remember it was Rigel 7. He said it Rigel 6.
Okay.
And why would he be on the outs with Deanna, who they've been married to for 20 years? She's an empath. She knows his feelings before he does. These are the kinds of conversations that are happening. But I don't think anybody would know what Hellbird was right away. And he knew. I don't think I was like, yeah, the Borg did a thing while you were Locutus. And that sort of happened off screen in the whole Best of Both Worlds storyline. But the fact that he knew what that was, didn't miss a beat, that helps me. The fact that Picard didn't know what it was, like, wouldn't he be debriefed on the entire, like, who of that?
You see me over here shaking my head. Here's what I'm going to say. Guys, it's the first episode of this season. These guys are old. They're not going to remember every detail of everything. I think it's way too soon to be going off into the conspiracy theory realm. Yeah. All right. Yes. Okay, so Riker forgot it was Rigel 6, not 7 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he and Deanna are on the outs. Okay, just because you know how someone feels before they do, that's not a argument deterrent. That's not they are not free and clear of any kind of marital strife or whatever it is. There is still plenty of opportunity there for not getting along, having these fights or quarrels or whatever it is, and forgetting things. I'm sure they've forgotten more than I know. So I'm going to say you've got to give them a little bit of. So, Dag, if you forgot things that, in my opinion, I thought you should have remembered, why would I think that, well, you're now an alien or was taken over? I mean, good Lord, if you were to see and hear on a daily basis the things that I don't remember, there'd be all kinds of conspiracies out there. Like, okay, this might not be the original Big J. He may be a clone or something like that. Give me a break. Come on. That's just how it is. It's going to happen. Just because they forget things doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy here. It's just human nature.
There's a great Star Trek movie that goes into detail on this. It's called Galaxy Quest. It talks about this
Yes.
this group of hyper obsessed cadets that keep reminding the captain of all of the great missions that the captain can't remember.
Yep.
And then at some point, the captain needs their help, and they're able to defeat the bad guy with their encyclopedic knowledge of the ship's innards and functions.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, because the thing is, this is the other thing that I want people to realize is that it's easy for us on our end to analyze these things and to expect a certain degree of memory from them because we watch this as episodic shows. Put yourself in their shoes. The thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours spent in space, all the planets, the missions, the this, the that, everything else. Of course, there's going to be all kinds of things that they don't get right. So basically, to sum up my beef, this is, and if hopefully you guys like, I've been doing this little thing called Big J's Beef, my own little short shows where I find things like this to kind of nitpick or talk about. But here's my beef about that is, let's not look for things to say are wrong or a conspiracy. Forgetting the number of a planet does not mean that suddenly we're dealing with Thomas Riker. Getting into a fight with Deanna does not mean that we're dealing with a clone or
a bluegill
or a bluegill. Okay, this is human nature. This is normal stuff. Okay.
Plus, if you've seen the preview for the next week, you know that like there's a conversation that takes place where somebody rips somebody else a new one.
Well, now you know me. I'm very anti. You know what's funny is
I will spoil it.
I'll watch previews for things. Like I watch all the previews for the show leading up to this, but I won't watch the week to week previews. Is that kind of weird?
No. I want to call out a really obscure reference that not a lot of people may have picked up. Maybe Jorg Hillebrand, the guy on Twitter, who just recently came out as a consultant for the last 2 seasons of Picard. This dude has impeccable notes. But there's a scene in this episode where Picard is at his desk and he's listening to music, and then he looks up and he's like, and then he asks the computer, "Do you hear that?" And the computer's like, "Yes." And so he turns the music off and he goes and he hunts down his 2360's comm badge.
Mm-hmm.
He heard that through the music. And if you remember, there was that scene in, I can't remember if it was Insurrection or Nemesis, where he can hear a misalignment. And Jordy's like, "You can hear that?"
That was an Insurrection.
When I was at Edson, I could hear a even greater misalignment.
Yeah.
And we also learn in Nemesis that Picard had Shelaf syndrome, which is a disease that makes your hearing hypersensitive. And so I love how that kind of just came together. Even if that wasn't intentional, it's still there.
That was nice to come together. If that was not intentional, I'll give it to him. You get a good freebie there if you are. Yeah, that's a nice one. We'll allow that. But yeah, that was Insurrection when you're talking about hearing the misalignment.
The alignments? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then we flash over to cyberpunk drug world, where Raffi is hitting up in Orion for some drugs. Somebody calls out Temerian drugs. And I was like, what is that like? You just see some stone person who's like Cheech and Chong or something. I don't even know the reference they'd make.
Man, dude, I need that good stuff.
They wouldn't even say it that way. They'd just be like Cheech and Chong in their van for 3 hours, eyes red or something. And then the guy who's selling him is like, and hands them that stuff, whatever that did. But there was one drug application I saw where one woman like flashes eye things at
Yes.
another woman, and I was like, that feels like the game. Do you remember the
Oh
game?
God,
Flashed
yes.
into your eyes, and
Mm-hmm.
when you completed the task, you got that dopamine hit. So that was kind of cool.
I wonder if that's what that is. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then so all of that conversation happens, and the audience is meant to believe that Rappy's fallen off the wagon. But she gets this tip called the Red Lady, and then she goes and she reports it. She requests a debrief, and she's actually super secret agent Rappy, which is awesome.
Yes.
Um, one of the big things that I really loved about this episode was that they used more establishing shots, and they had the cool music that they were using during the scenes to just sort of make it feel more like a Star Trek thing. We've been missing a lot of these establishing shots. It just goes there and does the thing. Poof, here we are back at the thing. And in this episode, we got to linger on that beautiful space station for several seconds. And we get to see this cyberpunk world for, moments before it's just Rappy talking to a drug dealer. And I definitely think that's another part of Essential Trek. That is these establishing shots that show the beauty of the universe.
We do need some time there. Let's see the universe. Let's see the setting where we're at.
You guys built these beautiful CG models. Yeah. Can I please drool over them for more than half a second? Thank you.
Right.
Not that hard.
It sets the scene for you. You feel like you can actually place yourself where the characters are at. You get a better feeling for what's taking place here. Okay, so we're in a shady kind of place. I don't know. Let me see that. Don't just start with here's our main character sitting trying to get high, trying to get a fix from a dealer. Let me see where they're at, so that we have kind of the whole thing. You know what I mean?
And I love the music in this episode. The music, yes, they're calling back to all the James Horner. James Horner.
Mm-hmm.
All of those cues. They had music from First Contact. I heard motion picture stuff, and of course Wrath of Khan. Yes. Okay, you've nostalgia baited me. Reel me in. But yeah, okay. So we linger on Raffi not knowing what the Red Lady is, and we go to Picard and Riker, who are taking a shuttle. They're going to do a surprise inspection of the Titan A, which has been entirely refit into the Neo Constitution. I loved Cal's reference when we spun over to that. Cal was like, "That's an old ship." I was like, "Yes."
Okay.
But yeah, they kept that ship's very like retro, design and angles and stuff like that. It definitely evokes much more Constitution than any other sort of ship frame we've seen up to now, I think.
Very much nostalgia with that frame. So maybe I doubt that there's any need to go into this more in another episode, but the Titan, Riker's first command, the Titan,
Luna class.
Yeah, it was made canon by Lower Decks, the Luna class. So something happened to the ship, because that's how you get a dash letter to the name. Is something the ship is no
Yeah.
longer in service. So now we have
Registry
the
iteration.
right, exactly. So now we have the Titan A. So I'm curious what happened to the Titan.
See, it's even weird because we don't even get the sense that something happened to the Titan. We just
Right.
get told there was a massive refit.
Yeah.
And we hear that this captain had to purge all of Riker's jazz music from the system. Um,
Like this is the same.
and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Did they do such an extensive refit? And of course they would have to because they've completely gone from a Luna class to a Neo Constitution. Um, but they've done such an extensive refit that it merited the iteration.
That is too much of a the refit from the Constitution class as we had seen in the 2260s to the refit which would become the Constitution class of the movies. That's one thing. That's I can see that design leap to go from what we know as the Luna class, what that looks like, and refit it to this. That's not a refit, dog. That's a whole new ship. That's
It's a ship of Theseus.
yes. You're
You're
not selling
familiar
me
with
on that.
the weirdness
Yeah,
of that?
if you replace every board, is it still the same ship? Kind of thing. And I get that, but the frame is just it's too radically different. It is just it's I
Yeah,
you
I
know
agree with you.
you hear what I'm saying. Like I get that they wanted to have this nostalgia throwback of the Constitution class. They also wanted to have it tie into the part of the plot was it having been Riker's ship. But there's too much suspension of disbelief. Okay, you want me to go from saying this was a Luna class and it went through a major refit and now looks like this. I don't know. I don't know. Should I give him to it? Should I give it to him, Dag? Should I give that much suspension of disbelief this early on? It feels like a lot. It feels like Big J's asked to give up a lot of.
It's a space show. I'm pretty sure the suspension of disbelief is universal.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I'm being asked. I'm being asked for a lot up front. That's what
Well,
I'm
let's get into
saying.
more of it. They arrive aboard the Titan and they are welcomed by
Yep.
Commander Annika Hansen.
Correct yourself, sir.
Very, very, very frustrated that one. Um, that whole interaction with Seven and Shaw has merited sort of a discussion of the metaphor of dead naming, um, and that's
Oh,
big bad thing to do to someone whose whole identity, like this is my identity, this is my name, and forcing them to not be that is almost taking away that identity. And as the husband of a trans man, that's something that I'm particularly sensitive to. Um, but also I have trans friends,
right.
and yeah, you don't do that. It's a big no no. And technically, Shaw probably should be reprimanded for it for being an asshole about it. But
He is an
that's
asshole.
part of the story. What did you want to just bring up right there?
It's as I was reading the chat and there's something that just dawned on me was that the Titan could have been destroyed, retired, whatever else, and it got the Enterprise treatment where because it was so distinguished, the next ship given to Captain Riker was also called the Titan, but then Titan A, and that's why you go for such a difference in class. It's like going from
Mm,
you had the for the Enterprise. I'll start with the Constitution class. Enterprise was a Constitution class, Excelsior class, an Ambassador class, a Galaxy class, Sovereign class, and now coming up is going to be Odyssey. So, but I don't want to beat that too much, but I've got a question
We've seen
for
all
you.
kinds of that though. Like the
Yeah.
Defiant was a Constitution class, and then it was a Defiant class.
Right.
So that worked.
Yeah. Um. So shouldn't the Defiant have technically been Defiant A right off the bat? Okay, never mind.
Shouldn't it?
Hmm?
Actually, it was a different registry number, so maybe not.
Right. Yeah, maybe it's tied to the registry number. Okay. So, question for you: you use this phrase, and I didn't quite understand it. Was it dead naming?
Dead naming.
What's dead
It
naming?
is dead naming is is what is called when a person meets someone in most cases a trans person who has chosen a new name for themselves.
Okay.
And not only do you mess up and call them by their former name, their dead name, because that identity is dead, but you insist and continually do it. There's a difference between screwing up because you either didn't know or it's new and you're trying to make it work, and insisting and pushing it on and over and over and over. So I think, and again, interactions with my husband, like there is a level of intent.
Hmm.
You want to be an asshole, and so you push it. There are people who mess up honestly, and we give those people some slack.
Right.
And fortunately, we really haven't ever had to encounter someone who has pushed it. But we know what we're gonna do when it happens.
Hmm.
Schneep. Dead
So,
friending.
so the dead naming is referring to Seven of Nine as Annika Hansen.
Because it makes her uncomfortable.
Okay.
You know, there are some people who like they allow certain people in their past, like Cal's parents have the privilege of calling Cal by his former name.
Uh huh.
But in other instances, that would not be okay. And so Seven is clearly upset about this. And then she has this moment with Picard and Riker later where she is very not okay with Captain Shaw as a leader.
Right.
And so you can sort of infer from this interaction that Shaw being not just a jerk, but also anti-Borg in general. He made that pass at Picard about, being a former drone and all that.
Hmm.
He's definitely, maybe he fought at Wolf 359 and he's just like phobic.
Or he
But
lost someone at Wolf
maybe,
359.
maybe, but that doesn't give you the privilege or the right to be a jerk to those people who were affected that way.
Hmm.
And if Seven's preferred name is Seven or Seven of Nine, and this guy keeps insisting, no, you're Annika Hansen, that is dead naming. If Seven hadn't been distressed about it, that conversation could have gone a lot differently and it wouldn't have been as focused as we saw it.
Okay.
Seven could have said something like, I'm reclaiming who I was or something. But I think the allegory is apt. And I think it fits in that moment.
What you said there makes sense. Totally clears it up. I think what threw me off was that it seems like it has now become an issue for her be referred to by that name. This isn't the first time. It's kind of like, okay, why now? Why now is it a problem to refer to you by your former name? Is it just because there's more? It's being used more of a, okay, this is going to be your name as an officer on this ship. Now suddenly it's a problem because
I'll give you two answers to that question. One
Okay.
in universe, one out of universe.
Okay.
In universe, Picard and Janeway sponsored Seven's admission to Starfleet. We
Right.
hear about this from Seven's own mouth. So sometime between the last episode and this episode, Picard and Janeway were like, you should definitely get into Starfleet. Her actions
Between
for
season 2 and season
saving-
3.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she gets into Starfleet. And what always happens when you have to join a highly bureaucratic organization is you have to fill out forms. And what goes on your form? Your name.
Yeah.
So how is Seven of Nine going to complete this paperwork? A lot of people who have to change their names have to fill out forms where they have to change their names. And so maybe Seven did that.
Okay.
And Shaw just refuses to acknowledge it because Shaw is Borgophobic.
Right.
So that's a task against Shaw. But number two, out of universe, it's the world we live in now. It has
Yeah.
become socio culturally relevant to have this conversation and to show people it's not okay.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
it kind of fits both aspects. I hope that answers the question
It
okay.
does. Yep. Yep. You got it. Thank you.
Cool.
Mhm.
Because I'm looking at the time and I'm like, I'm only on the front page of this card. We got the whole backside of the card here too.
Shit. I'll stop distracting you. But
No,
I
no,
thought
no,
I
no.
needed. I
We're
wanted to know
cool. We're
this.
cool. Okay, so let's see. Sydney LaForge is on this ship,
Hmm.
Geordie's daughter, who has apparently had her own scuffles with flying by the seat of her pants, maybe literally, at least twice in a shuttle. There is a moment here that I'm not sure how well it fits, but Riker says something to Picard, and Picard's like, "Shut it, Will." And I was wondering almost if that's almost a "shut up, Wesley" moment. And you know how much I don't like that phrase,
Right.
just because of the harm it has inferred. It has inferred to Will Wheaton.
Yep.
But this almost ticks that button, and for them, it might be humorous because he told Data to shut up too back in Nemesis.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing Picard didn't know, like alert engineering, like we don't do that anymore. It's all automated. This isn't a submarine, Jean-Luc. We don't have to like ring the bell or hey, get engines up to full speed up here. We're going. They're gonna hunt the Red October. Wait, what? Um, Interesting thing about the actor who played Shaw, he played a Romulan in Enterprise.
Yep. Yep.
That was 18 years ago. So maybe the actor's just salty that he had to be a Romulan.
He maintained that the character depiction. He's got to be in a
Yeah.
bad mood all the time. But yeah, that's Shaw. What a dick.
But he plays this gambit with Seven, where he has this whole conversation. Your reputation just preceded itself so far in the room. I started early.
Hmm.
Just like man, everything out of this dude was just thick sass, and I'm here for it most of the time. And also, he's getting compared to Jellicoe, where I kind of think, yeah, he's not wrong. Surprise inspection with no paperwork, two elders who have a reputation for sort of flying by the seat of their pants. Yeah, no, they're not going to take over my ship. This has happened too many times. Like in a vacuum, this would be like, we'll let them get what they want. But
I've
for a
seen
man
this
who
episode.
yeah, exactly. It's like I know it happened 100 years ago with Kirk, and I know you met Kirk, so like, no, this isn't happening. But then he goes to his room and he tells Seven she's in charge, and that's the gambit he plays. Like, wow, how is Seven going to handle this situation with two of people aboard who need to do something?
Right.
And of course, she loyalties herself out of a commission.
Well,
Um,
my thing about that is that if he was so damn suspicious, then instead of going to his room to go to sleep, he would have been on them, like watch over them like a hawk.
Maybe very Captain Styles.
Yeah.
Um,
So now
I don't
here's
know. Does the court martial go something like? So let me get this straight, Captain Shaw. You knew that Admiral Picard and Captain Riker were aboard your ship to rouse some activities that you didn't approve of. And yet you allowed your first officer, who has loyalty connections to these officers, to take the helm instead of, you know, manning up and doing the act yourself.
mm-hmm.
Like taking responsibility for that. Because the captain, the buck stops here. You knew something was afoot and you stepped away from that responsibility. This is not about Commander of Nine's, issue. That will be tried separately. But the buck stops with the captain and you dropped the dollar.
I think Christopher Marshall here in our chat said it perfectly. Not if he's so arrogant he can't imagine Seven disobeying him.
Man, that would be a heck of a defense. I never suspected my first officer of disobeying me. Okay, fair.
Right. Yep.
All right.
Especially after how he treats her. Like, okay, Dick, you really think that she's not going to disobey you?
Well,
yeah, of course she's going to loyalty herself to you're an asshole.
yeah.
She has no
Picard
loyalty
comes out of
to
retirement to be like, I dropped the charges against Commander of 9. We flat back over to Raffi. She's in La Serena, and she's watching videos of a young girl. I think it's her granddaughter because in Picard season 1, her son was having a daughter.
Yep.
And then she has a conversation with her handler, who says, among other things, that was an act of war. You are a warrior. And I'm like, hi, Worf. And if you haven't watched that episode a second time, watch it a second time and just imagine all the words on the screen being spoken by Worf, and you're like, yeah, perfect, right there.
Yes.
She's like, I want to come home. Denied. I want to come home. Denied. I am so pissed. I remember. Speak freely. Like, yep.
Hear it in his voice.
Every single bit of that.
Yeah. That's a good catch. There was this little spidey sense that went off on that, but it kind of came and it went. And now that you say that, you're right, because there'd be no reason to not have. There's not a lot of room for extra characters when there don't need to be. If there's going to be a handler for Raffi, it's going to be Worf, or is going to be somebody that's going to do more than just have that one scene if they're going to make it a point. And that's I'm not sure if it's not Chekhov's gun, it's not. Okay, what am I thinking here, Dag? You're gonna have to help me out. It's when you're making it a point to signify a character, like this handler. There was a point made to possibly introduce this handler as a character.
I'm not the best at literary mechanics, but it's like Chekhov's gun is, we spotlighted this, we have to use it later. And then there's also like foreshadowing, where it's like, we kind of hinted over here and we're going to fulfill that over here.
Gotcha. Something like that. This
might be a character foreshadowing. Like, eventually it'll be revealed that Worf was Raffi's handler, but this whole "you are a warrior," like that's
exactly
a little on the nose.
Yep.
And it makes sense for Worf, because he starts out as the con officer on the Enterprise D, goes right into security, goes from security to strategic operations on one of the most coveted institutions, like in Deep Space Nine. It's the most important station of the Dominion War. It's right there at the wormhole. You've got a guy who has experience with the Borg, with the Dominion, with the Romulans. He goes and he becomes the ambassador to Kronos, so he has a ton of information about Klingon stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for like a day. He just comes right back. He loses one Targa to General Martok, and he's like, that's it.
F this.
He's in the perfect spot to become a security intelligence officer.
Yeah.
And to be high ranking at that. Like, it's 2301. He was born in 43, so he's almost 60 years old. Or I don't know about the actor Michael Dorn, but the character is almost 60.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that's there for him. Let's see. Mona Meha says the man at the bar dropping the little ship in the glass was more of the Chekhov's gun. Okay. Yeah. Again,
I agree.
I am not a literature mechanics specialist. I just know that if Chekhov has a gun in an episode, he's going to use it later.
Yeah. Right. He has no reason to hold a gun.
Yeah, exactly. Like Star Trek 4. Chekhov had a gun, And then on the Enterprise, on the CVS, no, that's a store,
That's
CGN Enterprise, when he's like, I will have to stun you, and he goes and he tries to fire Chekhov's gun, and it doesn't work, which is that's the funny part. So let's see. We get Riker and Picard with cadet accommodations, like not even like lower decks coolness. Just here's some
freaking bunk
bunkers
bed.
and some old school Star Trek, really crappy beds with a little pluff pillow and no blankets, or maybe a little lame parachute.
Not even a friggin' blanket. Now there's this line that when Picard said that he'd never been so humiliated, and Riker says something about and I've never had to get up to pee so much. I felt that one down to the bone marrow because, oh my God, when you get old, this is going to happen to you, Dag, if it hasn't happened already. But it's just, it's like every freaking feels like hour you're getting up, going to the damn bathroom when you're trying to sleep. So when Riker said that, I felt that. I was like, oh, ooh, yeah,
I mean,
that's
I try to drink about 90 ounces of water a day, so I have a reason.
well, that's good. Yeah,
Right.
got to stay hydrated.
Ooh. Especially in this like desert California air. So we have 5 minutes to get through the rest of the episode. And I'm just gonna micro machine. Don't we have like 5 minutes?
No, we have until noon Eastern.
Noon Easter. So we have like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, that's better.
We got the extra 15 because I told our
Thank you, Chad.
wonderful event coordinator Ryan T. Husk that probably do about an hour and 15, hour and a half on episode review. So
That's cool.
All
right.
that's why I felt like we
until
started
noon.
early. We didn't start on the hour,
Ugh.
so we don't.
DJ Kitty Cat, they didn't solve the prostate issue even in the 25th century.
So you're probably sitting there sweating, wondering, Big J, why are you running your mouth so much? I'm looking at the time right here. I'm like, we're perfect. We're right on time. You thought we had 3 minutes left.
I can't sweat. I'm dehydrated.
There's not enough water in California to let it go to waste.
So then Seven calls Picard and Riker to the observation lounge and is like, you tell me what you're doing right now, yo. And Riker's like, how do you talk to an admiral? She's like a friend, bitch.
Right. Like, bitch, you're on my ship. 1. 2, I called this meeting. You're in my house.
This is between me and Locutus. You can stay out of it, okay?
Yes. Borg to Borg, you can go tell your story walking down the hallway. Like, listen up, yo. I want to know what's going on.
It's funny that Shaw made the whole, like, you're a Borg and not like, you're a weird organic android.
Oh. Yeah.
But they have their conversation, and Seven's like, all right, I side with you. And oh, by the way, several hours before I rerouted us to the Righton systems already, so I trusted you before we even had this conversation.
Well, she knows what's up.
Even if she had airlocked them, they'd be where they need to be.
Well, you got there one way or another. Airlocked your asses, so here you are.
But we get some more ship porn in the whole the exiting of the vehicle. Shaw's pissed. Shaw wakes up because there's some clanging happening. He's like, a nebula I don't recognize. Oh no.
We must be on the edge of Federation space.
It feels like that's like a Badlands kind of area too. Did you feel that?
A little bit. A little bit, yes. Can I talk about the bridge setup real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about the bridge.
So, this has always bothered me in general about Star Trek. Really, I think almost about any sci-fi. Okay, so when you're on the ship, let's just say it's okay. So there's 3 shifts, duty shifts, right? 3 8-hour shifts. So when you're at work, like when you're working on something, I'm sure you have a little bit of downtime. You might throw in the occasional solitaire, surf the net a little bit, maybe read a news article, something like that. Well, on a starship, what do you do? So okay, so there's the captain's chair, and then the chair on the right and the left. No consoles, no nothing. What do you do? Do you just sit there staring at the screen? What do you do with any downtime? Is there surfing the net? Trying to sneak in a little game? You can't tell me. I am a firm believer in you cannot be busy and have something to do every second of your entire shift. So that's probably why I would be a bad middle manager, because I'm not a micromanager. I'm not one of those you can always keep busy kind of people. I don't. As a captain of a ship, are you just sitting there staring at the screen? Because if you have to go from starbase to starbase or wherever it is you're going, it's not like you're driving to the next town. It can take days. It could take weeks to get where you're going. So you have this 8-hour shift that you're sitting on the bridge at your station, and there is nothing to do. It is boring as hell. What do you do? I can't, like, it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy to think of being on the ship and just sitting in your chair, and you do what? What do you do?
I'll tell you what you do. If you're the captain of a ship and you have a bridge as sleek and smooth as the Titan A,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just ferrying somebody from one place to another, you put Xanadu on the main viewer, 1980 movie starring Olivia Newton-John, and
Xanadu.
yeah, you put Xanadu on, and then the disco ball comes down from the center, and the whole area becomes a roller skating rink.
I can't believe you went there.
And then the delegates, any diplomatic people who are there, they're invited to go roller skating with you. And it doesn't matter who you bump into, and you can play like Red Rover, Red Rover. You can do all the cool games that you did at the roller skating rink. No harm, no foul, and then everybody goes right back to their duties once their shift ends. But yeah, you just turn the bridge into a giant disco roller rink. Prove me wrong.
All right. I might go watch Xanadu today.
I have it on DVD, and I love it because it came with the CD too, and the music slaps.
It is. It's a good watch. Oh yeah, good music.
By the way, slaps is modern slang. I just learned this.
You just learned this?
It's a good
I
thing.
knew that, and I'm the one that's the old on the tail end.
Kids, Jay, they're like in tune. Like, does your son ever be like, Dad, get your whip, let's go? And you're like, my whip? I'm not a Ferengi.
No, not that. Oh, but you know what my youngest daughter did say the other day? She was on her tablet watching something, eating something. I don't know what it was, but she used the phrase, Dad, this is bussin'. And I said, what? I said, you're 8 saying what's bussin'? What's that kind of slang? And I don't know. I don't know anymore.
If anybody in chat can tell us what bussin' means, it'll make us feel relevant again. Thanks.
Well, she told me what it meant. She said it means this is good or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Why use 2 syllables when 1 syllable does trick?
Exactly. It's like spelling thick with 2 C's instead of 1. You're using the same amount of letters. Why make one a different letter than it needs to be?
Get off my grammar, you darn Zoomers.
I know. I can't stand it with all this millennial talk.
Major joking, of course.
That's what it was, DJ Kitty Cat. It was I had made her something. It was either bacon or something. It was something I made. It's food, and then she said, "Dad, this is bussin'." Yes.
Bengenium tells me slaps is old now. I just learned it, and it's already out of date. Thanks, Bengenium.
I got one on you.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm still over here being like hyphy.
Wait a minute. Here's one. I'm working on my fit. It's my shirt, my fit. Do I have to have a hat? Is all the accessories?
Okay, so I went to a D&D game, and I had a bunch of Star Trek stuff on, and some dude told me he didn't expect to see somebody kitted out in Star Trek. And I'm like, kitted? It's not like the stuff sitting in a box by itself, but whatever. Man, man, I blame COVID. I haven't gotten out in like 3 years. I don't know what anybody is saying anymore. Oh boy. So Garrett, the Red Lady, like that thing is like
Mm-hmm.
huge to me. Why is Garrett the Red Lady? And if you're watching, you're like, who is Rachel Garrett? She's the captain of the Enterprise C.
Mm-hmm. Well,
What happened there?
because when she was captain, their uniforms were still the monster maroon. So it was red, a lot of
Oh, then
red.
they could have called her the Maroon Ma'am. That would fit better.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that.
Maroon Mama, if they want to go a little more slangy, but that's
Maroon
probably the
Mama.
Red Lady.
Yeah.
I was almost expecting them to pull like a Red Angel joke. Like, is there a statue of freaking, you know,
Yeah.
Michael Burnham? Have they got rid of their like it's treason to talk about Discovery now because it's after the time we care about it? But
Yeah,
no.
right.
Garrett,
So
what an awesomely cool yet obscure choice for
yeah,
Frontier Day.
I like it.
You know,
I'll take
maybe it's
it.
just a thing that happens to captains of the Enterprise. But then where's Harriman's statue? Where's Kirk's statue? You know,
Probably, well, if a Kirk statue would be on Earth, of course. If Harriman
there's
has a
another one
statue,
on Kronos,
right? Yeah,
most formidable Federation enemy.
Harriman's got to have one somewhere. But so okay, so this recruitment center. What planet are we on again? I totally missed it. I don't think I even caught the name of it.
It was District Seven, is what Rappy called it.
Right, District 7, but
And once again, an incarnation of Rachel Garrett has to go through a portal to meet her doom.
yeah, that's a now that's a hell of a weapon. Just
Everyone here and back. Yeah,
just
no,
yeets you over here.
quantum tunneling thinking in portals weapon was like, whoa, that's
It's the quantum yeeter,
the quantum yeet.
the quantum yeet.
Quantum yeet.
It's not
Wow.
quantum leap. It's quantum yeet.
Quantum yeet. That's just the 21st century slang now. See, yeet, is yeet still popular?
I think
hope so.
yeet still better be valid
Okay.
still. 'Cause I'm
In
still
like
using
60
it.
years, we're gonna have like yeet, wow, and cool,
Mhm.
and that'll be like the three successor slang terms for coolness. Mm. So yeah, we see the Starfleet. This is an installation where like it's a recruitment center. Is what it is,
Yep.
and it gets trashed. And Raffi is just like really broken up about this because she's been waiting for months for this thing to be weaponized, and here it is, first targets against Starfleet. So that's bad. Flashback to the Titan. We head on over to the Helios on a shuttle. And Riker and Picard get off and go scouting about and do a really cool like impromptu crime scene investigation. We're like, you ever seen ashes like this before? I was like, that's kind of astute, Riker. Like you're on it. But like my thing is like at the end, that ship that shows up, I immediately went Sona because that ship looks way like a Sona vessel.
You know what it? If you there's this game, Star Trek game out there called Star Trek Fleet Command,
Huh?
and for anyone out there listening who may know what I'm talking about, but there's a ship in that game. It's called the Vidar. It's a Borg modified kind of ship. It looks a lot like that. So if you are familiar with that game, that might be what you thought of there. Very much look like that. Which that's kind of what I got from it. And in this last several minutes that we have here, why don't we spend some of the time talking about are there predictions already on who predictions? We know who the dude is Beverly's. All right, big spoiler coming out. I'm about to say it in 3, 2, 1. Her son.
Credited on IMDb
Uh-huh.
as Jack Crusher.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, sure. You have a son, call him Jack. But now, who's the father? That's what
Cloning.
you think.
I mean, the orchids, they were like a dead giveaway to me. Plus the fact that the end credits are very personalized. Like this is Raffi's end credit where it says "Do not blame, do not seek anger," and that's very like also like in line with like Worf's new pacifism. Um, I definitely think that Jack is a clone, and where he picked up a British accent in a vacuum completely eludes me. They do this all the time. Like Shinzon, raised on Romulus, has a British accent.
Right.
What the heck?
So, okay, I do get the, because one of the side plots here in regards to the crew is that Beverly ghosted everybody for like 20 years. So we're going to find out what that was about. Apparently this was just some, like, she just up and was gone and just cut everyone off. So are we saying that she did not birth this person? This is not a natural born child? I thought she said, I might have to rewatch it again, but I thought the word son came out.
It did. Like, it did. He said, "I'm her son."
I'm her son. Right. Okay. But he wouldn't say that if he was a clone. If he was a clone of.
Sure, he would. He's not a clone. He is the son of Beverly and Jack. Beverly used Jack's DNA and her DNA to create a child, whether that was like in vitro or in a test tube or in a Borg acclimation. I don't know. We don't know yet, Jay. It's just the first episode. Don't hound me with this information.
But why the British accent? Because the first thing I'm thinking...
Because we have discovered the gene for accents. And she just grabbed one for Picard and went, "Here, I hated Jack's voice."
I think... I want to say that Picard is the father and is the whole reason behind the... No, wait a minute. Hold on a second.
That would totally negate the reason for having Jack Crusher's suitcase there.
Just because Jean-Luc's a father doesn't mean that she can't have memorabilia of his like
in
old
a
stuff.
lab in a lab where she's cloning stuff. Come on.
Okay.
But it's the first episode. We'll find out.
Okay.
We'll find out.
All right.
I don't like the idea
me.
of Picard having a secret son because Picard's already had a secret clone and a secret son.
Yeah.
Like we've already done this twice.
Yeah, we got
not do it a third time.
Where is Jerry frickin' Springer when you need him? No, Mari. Get Mari. I want Mari Povich in the next episode immediately.
Dr.
We need
Bashir
to know.
says you are the father.
So I'm gonna go with clone, and somehow
okay,
clones in the future are just gonna have British accents. So that's just how it is. For some reason, cloning. If you're cloned, here you go, British accent, ready to go. Get to take it if you like it or not.
So
yeah,
can we talk about those end credits?
Oh yes.
Because there's some cool little details in there. My favorite one is the musical notes. Do you remember seeing that? There's like that whole page of like musical notes popping out.
Yes.
And somebody was like, "Oh, that's a total reference to Harry Kim." And I was like, "How was that a reference to Harry Kim?" Yes, he played the clarinet. I get that, and he had some sheet music. I get that too. But do you know what the notes are?
It's kind of
Pop
bleep.
Goes the Weasel. No, it's literally, it's the notes to Pop Goes the Weasel. I was like, it's totally data right there.
I don't read notes. Yeah, I don't know music notes.
Well,
we've
Fleet Museum.
We got a couple minutes here, Dag.
Yeah. Picard 47 Alpha Tango.
Yes.
It's his password from First Contact.
That's right.
When he initiated the self-destruct.
No, that was to answer the hail from Admiral Hansen when he was sleeping.
Same thing.
Woke up and... Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Initiate self-destruct authorization Picard 47 Alpha Tango. And then Crusher is like, I agree as the CMO. Dr. Beverly Crusher, Charlie 22 Beta.
Yep.
And then at the end for Annie Wershing.
For Annie.
Passed away. Best Borg Queen. Miss you. Most intimidating Borg Queen on on screen. I would say.
Yeah.
Everybody's free to have their answers. And I remember being there at first contact. That was scary as hell too. But yeah, I think Annie brought back the menacing aspect of the Borg that we've been missing.
Yep, she did. Well, everyone, thank you. Thank you so much. Have to wrap quick. We're out of time. For everyone that joined us in the live chat, thank you. We love you. You're great. Thanks also to special thanks, Ryan T. Husk from the Seventh Rule Star Trek podcast, putting together virtual TrekCon. This is the fourth one. Awesome. It's great. Can't wait to talk to you guys again. Enjoy the rest of the season of Picard and live long and prosper.